I just finished playing the Bratz Rhythm and Rhyme game that came out recently, and I do have some thoughts, most of them not so pleasant, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. So before we jump into the bad stuff, I'll just quickly go through some of the good stuff and stuff that I would like to see return or expand on in the future games if they get the budget for it. So first up, I would say some of new returning characters are definitely something that I enjoyed in this game. I think the first game lacked a lot of recognizable faces. So in the sequel game here, we have two familiar faces. We have Nevra and Roxanne. So that's a nice little surprise. I assumed Roxanne would be in the game, but I didn't know Nevra would. And they do have a nice little storyline that's going on in the background, so I definitely enjoyed that. On the flip side, we did get some of the villains back, so we did get the Tweevils and Bordine. Unfortunately, Bordine was only voice acting for a few little bits. She wasn't actually showing up as an actual character, which is unfortunate.
Incompetent clones! Where have you been?
But we did get to see a good bit of the Tweevils. Again, I do wish we could have seen more, but there was a strict budget, obviously, with this game, so they did as much as they could. So shops are back, and when I say back, I'm not just talking about one shop. They had several different shops with different clothing lines. It's kind of similar to the PS2 games, but again, they were only menus. It's not like going into the actual shop and running around and going to the different stalls or mannequins and stuff like that. It's a step up from last game, but I do think it's something that could hopefully be expanded on in the future. Lastly, for the good side, and this is probably the thing I enjoyed the most, was the customization options. So in this game, we got a lot more clothes here and makeup options compared to the last game. And with Bratz, their fashion and style, like, they're always fun and cute. So if you are someone that is looking for this as a more of a dress-up game, then this is definitely a plus for that, because they've added so much more new content in that terms. So in terms of the bad stuff, there is quite a bit, but I will try and keep it to what I think is the main points. So I'm going to split it into three categories. The first category is going to be audio and voice issues. So during the game, there was a lot of times where the audio would kind of just break out completely. So if you were doing something on stage, the crowd would just go completely silent. The music would just randomly stop. And just a lot of sound effects that are just very unpolished. Sometimes you'll be running around and you can hear the footstep audio cue just repeating itself over and over. And this is very prevalent in the gym minigame. When they're actually doing it, you can just hear the voice lines kind of just going up, up, down, down, and it's just bad.
Right, 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 right.
Also with that, something that really disappointed me was missing a lot of voice acting. This broke immersion for me a lot, and just as soon as it started happening, my excitement for the game just dropped so much. So you do get voice acting, but I would say it's like 20% of the actual dialogue in the game. The other 80% is just text, and it's kind of frustrating because I don't understand. I understand they have a small budget, but they could have done something similar to the Elder Scrolls, for example, where they just have a small pool of voice actors who come up with different voices for different characters. And I felt like that could have been a workaround, but it feels like they just said, screw it, we'll just do the voice acting for some of the main points of the game. And even then, you can tell some of the main points in the game were thrown together last minute because they don't have audio when they really should. So overall, the quality in terms of audio, just not good. So then in terms of glitches and technical problems. Now, overall, I would say it wasn't too bad, but there was some that were more so just annoying to deal with, and then others where I would have to just completely restart the game. So the first one is hair clipping. So with Bratz, they're obviously very well known for having cool hair, and a game that's about those, I would expect to have better hair physics. And I'm not saying they have to have realistic hair physics or anything, but There's no reason that their hair should be clipping through their arms or just clipping through their entire bodies at some points. Another point is getting stuck between objects. This is something that frustrated me a lot while getting around the world. Is you'll be walking by and something that you should clearly be able to walk through, you just get stuck in like an invisible corner or an invisible box, and that just made me get very frustrated. Another thing, and this was in my opinion the biggest issue with the game, was almost all of the tutorials glitched out for me. So they would start off fine, but then somewhere halfway through they would just completely glitch out and freeze. So I would have to close the game and then restart completely from scratch. Not my save file, but just that kind of section of the game. So fair enough if it happens once, but 5 times is a bit silly. Another thing that I found really frustrating about the game was the gym minigame. This is probably one of the buggiest minigames I've ever seen in any video game ever. The response is not responsive at all. Sometimes it would work perfect, and then other times it just would not work at all. Even if you're timing it perfectly, it will just not register your actual input. So that's something that if you are going to play the game, I just suggest avoiding that minigame as much as you can. Then in terms of gameplay and design choices, so firstly with the money in the game, it is very easy to get. In fact, you can kind of cheese it by just repeating a mini game over and over, or just going around collecting money from vending machines. So it does kind of make money feel kind of useless in the game. They should have just unlocked everything anyways. Another thing, and this is something that's actually not in the game, so if you played the PS2 Bratz games, you know there was a lot of customization in terms of creating your own clothes, your own banners and posters, and you could even color hair. But in this game, I was hoping they would step up from the last one, but unfortunately the only update they made was being able to change the color of your clothes, which granted is really nice. I think it adds more flexibility with making outfits, but I miss that kind of customized feature of being able to really customize everything how I wanted it to. Another point is that the world feels completely lifeless. There's basically nothing to interact with except vending machines and just talking to NPCs that just say the most generic lines over and over again. So if you're hoping the world is a bit more fun this time, it's not really. They might have added a few more decorations here and there, but they still feel just as empty as the previous game if you did play that. So the world, if I gave it a score out of 10, would probably have to be a 1. Another thing with the world as well is the camera angle. I still don't know why they're choosing to use this kind of top-down angle instead of going back to how it was done in the PS2 days, where it was just a third-person camera. The camera in this game just makes everything feel so limited, especially when you're trying to explore the world. It just makes it so clunky and unorganized and really difficult to see where you're actually going. And then to add on going around the world, in the previous game you could get skateboards, and for some reason these were just completely removed, so they're no longer available for you to use. And I feel like you do notice that not being in the game because it takes forever to get to one side to the other, and especially with some of the quests in the game, they are very repetitive, and so it just gets really boring having to go back and forth 5 times in a row. And in terms of side activities, there really is none. You have the main quest and that's pretty much it. There's no side quests or cool side activities to do. The only other kind of mini game is the gym, but again, that's basically just another timing game that's basically the same as what you're going to be doing in the main quest. So there's no additional side content, which is disappointing. So for me, my overall kind of review or impression of this is it doesn't really feel like a real sequel. It feels like they just added a bunch of new assets in terms of clothes here and added a new rhythm game without really adding anything substantial or fixing anything basic, and just slapped that together and called it a new game. And for me, that's just not enough, and I think it's a slap in the face for consumers. And especially considering the fact that it's €40, I definitely regret paying it. Even if it was on sale for 50%, I wouldn't recommend buying it for €20. I would say maybe wait until a few years when it's like €5 secondhand or something, because it's definitely not worth the money, especially if you already bought the previous game that came out. It's just, no, it's not worth it. So yeah, my final thing to say is if you are curious about it, I would grab it when it's really dirt cheap. I wouldn't wait for a 50% sale. I would wait until it's like 90% off. But yeah, if you guys played it, I would love to hear what you guys think down below. But yeah, that's all from my side. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.